Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the One Hub Racing Twitch channel. Round number 2 of 3 here in the Super Trofeo Cup, the Italian Cup, of course. And we are at Imola, the home of the San Marino Grand Prix, the home of now the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, and also home of round 2 out of 3 here. Who will triumph in the Lambos tonight? Could we see Riccardo De Marchi take a second win in a row and a big step towards that £25 top prize? My name is Luke. Joining me in the commentary box once again is Paul. And Paul, the drivers seem to be looking forward tonight, but they're all aware of the fact that it is a much different challenge to what they faced last week at Monza.
Oh, good evening, Luke. Good evening, everyone. You are absolutely right. It is a much different challenge to last time out around Monza. It's a much more difficult track to overtake around as Imola. It's not impossible. It's easier somewhat than say if you're in an open wheel category like Formula One, where stuff like dirty air is much more severe on your driving ability through the corners. But it is tricky, and the drivers do all know that. They all have their pre-race interviews where they have a few questions to answer, and every single one of them that has answered about how tricky it is to overtake around here, they've all said, yep, it's tricky, but it's not impossible, and we know what we've got to do to make a move.
Yeah, I think they're all looking forward to seeing how they can go. They all sort of enjoy the challenge of the Imola circuit. I know it's certainly one that I enjoy as well. You can just see a few facts about the track there. 4.909 kilometers, 19 corners, an anti-clockwise track, so front right taking a bit more stress, not really one that they're used to. Most racing circuits in general are, of course, clockwise, but it should be a fun race. If you can't remember what happened last time out, it was, well, there was plenty of action in the first part of the race. Things sort of calmed down after the pit stops in what was the 1 hour race. It was Riccardo De Marchi who took a fantastic victory, qualified on pole position, had a brilliant challenge at the start with David O'Hack. In the end, though, pulled away despite a few issues after the pit stop, ended up cutting over the Vetafilio chicane, took a nice clean win and getting that fastest lap as well. David O'Hack in second place, Nathan Samba in third. So what that does mean, of course, the championship is just, we've only had one race, so De Marchi leading the championship on 20 points, O'Hack on 17, Samba on 14 points. We only had 11 finishers last week. It was a bit of a race of attrition. Everyone obviously wanted to get stuff done at turn 1, and tonight, you imagine turn 1 again is going to be where you see most of the overtaking action into the Tamburello chicane.
Absolutely, yeah, it is going to be. Tamburello is coming off that main straight, is going to be one of those key overtaking points. Of course, we might see some little opportunistic lunges into Tosa as well a little bit later on in the map, if anybody's in the track. Sorry, if anybody's feeling a little bit extra brave. But the track doesn't present many opportunities to overtake. I think one thing that will be influencing overtaking a little bit tonight, if a little bit more than we saw in Monza, is going to be track limit violations and accrued penalties from those. It's quite difficult sometimes to keep your car within the white lines around here with the way some of the corners flow together, so I'm expecting to see a few more penalties than we did last week. Even though the drivers have been practicing some of them, it's going to be, you've got to keep right between those white lines to really avoid those penalties and really ruin your race. But if we do see penalties coming in, it could add spice further down the order as everybody tries to make their way back through, because tricky to overtake, but pace definitely helps on those overtakes. If you've got the pace to get past the car in front, and it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to get past him sooner rather than later.
Different things, how they were expected to feel tonight. I know Mark Coltai was talking about just making sure he doesn't get a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I know that was the one penalty, well, one of the big penalties that we saw last week. We saw penalties as well for cutting that first chicane. I do agree. I think it is going to be a bit more tricky. I have seen drivers easily around here if they're trying to take advantage of the track limits to get a bit more. It is a circuit where things can be very tricky. We do have a mix of ability of drivers as well. We've got your pro class drivers, we've got a few in the silver, and we've got a few in the amateur class. And imagine that might lead to a bit more of a field spread than we had last week. Imola is a bit more of a tricky circuit than Monza. Well, there's more corners for starters, so that more places to gain time or to lose time.
Absolutely, but as me and you were talking about just before we came on air, actually, as much as we might see a more of a field gap with that different level of skill that we've got, we should have, fingers crossed, a few more cars on the grid tonight, which should then help bridge that gap perhaps between sort of the pro and the silver and the amateur class drivers, and keep the field bunched together, because as we saw last week, you can have lonely races if you are slightly slower than the guys in front of you, but you're slightly faster than the guys behind. You're just going to be chilling in a little bit of clean air for the whole race and not really seeing many people and not seeing much action. So hopefully, if we do get a few more cars on the grid, that will be the case, and we'll have much more close racing field, even with the amateur drivers maybe getting in a little bit with the silvers, and likewise with the silvers getting in with the pro drivers as well.
Yeah, that would hopefully be the way. You can hear a few cars in the background. We are just going to get ready then and get this practice session underway. Then they've got 10 minutes of practice before 20-minute qualifying, and then it is a 60-minute race. And then we have actually got one of the new drivers that is in for tonight. Liam Yu just making his way down towards the first corner. Obviously, they used to have the Variante Bassa, that final chicane that they used to use on the F1 track. That has now been removed. They do still have a chicane there that they use for motorbikes on occasion to slow them down towards turn number 1. Probably means, we talked about how important Tamburello is. Of course, that means Ravazza, the final 2 corners, are going to be so crucial in qualifying and in the race to ensure you get a good run onto that final, onto the main start-finish straight.
Absolutely, corner exit is just as important, if not more so important than corner entry is. It's all very well and good getting it slowed down in time and hitting those apexes, but then if you're slow to be able to pick up the power for whatever reason, be it rear traction or if you run a little bit wide, for example, that will hurt you, especially down the straight, as you say, coming out of Ravazza. It is quite a lengthy straight down towards Tamburello, as non-straight as it is still full throttle the whole way there. So if you do get a bad exit, it's going to hurt you all the way down there. And if the guy behind does manage to get his good exit, then yeah, you could be losing a position even into Tamburello just off that alone.
Yeah, there's another tricky corner as well. News just taking us around in car number 63. Variante Alta. Always a chicane that the drivers try to take as much curb as possible. You can get away with taking a bit more in these than you can in a Formula 1 car, but still, you don't want to be attacking those curbs too aggressively. Can easily lose lots of time or send yourself spinning off. And there's not really a lot of runoff at that part of the circuit. Now, we've already spoken about how all the drivers did mention just how crucial qualifying is going to be. Every single one I've ever said, yeah, you know, it's very complicated. You've got to make sure that you're getting towards the front. So do you think that might mean fewer of the drivers go for a setup that is a bit more aggressive, just knowing the fact that if they get a good result in qualifying, they might be able to defend it in the race?
It is a possibility. Of course, setup can be important. This was another point that we mentioned just before coming on air, actually, is how important setup can be. The game does provide some pretty decent setups for those that aren't quite so accustomed to adjusting the things like camber and toe in and all of this suspension geometry stuff. I mean, that you start speaking those words to me at least, and it's all gobbledygook, it's jargon. But, so the game does provide you with a couple of options, and I imagine that a few of the drivers are going to be running those options in a similar boat to me, where they don't quite know what the best way to set your camber and your toe and everything up will be on this circuit. And there is the aggressive and the safe option there. And from when I drove this the other day, the aggressive option is still quite planted around here, so I could absolutely see some more aggressive setups coming out from the drivers to try and get that little bit of an edge in qualifying as the race goes on. But then the question will be, how well can they handle that aggressive setup for a whole 1 hour race? It's one thing to be able to keep the car in between the track limits on an aggressive setup with it wiggling around a lot on one hot lap, but to do it for sort of 30 laps in a row, that's where the real trickiness gets to.
Yeah, certainly. They're making sure that aggressive setup as well. How much is it taking out of the tyres in this car? We mentioned that front left is going to take a bit of a hammer in. There's a few slow speed corners around the circuit, but it is a fairly medium speed track. Even the two main chicanes at the start of the lap, Tamburello and Villeneuve, aren't really going down to too many slow speeds. We've just got cars heading up towards Villeneuve now is Taylor Brady. He'll be hoping for a much better performance than last time out. And this corner toes him, another interesting one. I think especially on the first lap of the race, if you're feeling brave, you can easily send one up the inside there, get the wheels out, get a bit of door banging against each other. And who knows, we could see cars battling all the way up this hill towards Pimatella, a corner that I always find deceptively difficult. You always want to take it faster than you actually can, and I think that could be the point of the track that catches drivers out a lot with track limits.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, calling up on my experiences from driving around here the other day, Piratella, you want to take that in 5th. But at least when I was driving it, I absolutely couldn't, like most of the time. It beckons you in at high speed, but then it tightens so much towards the exit that it is very misleading. And then, of course, if you don't get that corner right, you then lose the momentum all the way down the hill towards Acqua Minerale. So it's like a double whammy, if you like. And the curb on the outside is pretty brutal as well if you hit that wrong. So it is a very tricky part of the track to get right through a lap. And then, obviously, well, to be fair, I'm picking out corners where it's quite tricky. But quite a lot of this track is tricky. You've got Acqua Minerale, which downhill braking is very tricky to do. You've got the Variante Alta with those massive sausage curbs on the insides of both parts of that chicane. That's quite tricky to pull off as well. The whole track is going to really sort out the men from the boys when it comes to who is fastest and who can keep the car pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've got Dayman in the chat saying, I always found it too hard to overtake, but it's one of the favourite tracks. It seems to be a bit of a feeling, but drivers always love it around here. They know it is a tough circuit. They're willing to take that challenge, and it certainly does challenge for drivers. I know from myself, more experienced commentating on the F1 game, there's always mistakes. You see the best of the best get tested and get it wrong around here. So over a 60-minute race, which is still fairly short for a GT race compared to, you know, endurance races around this circuit, they won't be feeling too bad. But, you know, wouldn't be surprised if we do see a few mistakes around everyone. We're nearly at the end of the free practice session then. 1:44.7, the fastest time at the moment. We came in from the practice server and we were seeing similar sorts of times. And again, it is Ohak and Demarchi right up there. Brady there in 3rd place. Christensen in 4th place. He didn't do much practice last time out. And he said, you know what, I had a nice clean race. Finished in 4th place last time out with barely practicing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Speaking to him yesterday, he said, yeah, I haven't touched the game since last week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just winging it all the way through. And, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he manages to find his way into some other battles this time around, rather than racing in clean air the whole time. And speaking of hoping we find our way into battles with drivers, it is Taylor Brady. We touched upon it before as well. We didn't get to see much of him last week with the incident he had with Popa right towards the start of that race. Did mean he was out of contention very, very early on, and he did look like he had decent pace, and he's showing that pace once again here, currently sitting 3rd in practice at the very least. So fingers crossed we can see a little bit more from him this time round. In fact, as Demarchi's just usurped 3rd place in practice away from him right at the end there. In fact, no, that was Christensen, I believe, has actually gone that little bit quicker. But yeah, Taylor Brady, one to watch. He's self-proclaimed his rivals as Nathan Samba and Christensen, who has just jumped up ahead of him in the practice. So keep an eye on those three, as we could see some close racing coming up between them as well.
Yeah, we certainly could see. I think it's going to be a fascinating qualifying session, and just to get an idea of what a lap's going to be about, like around this circuit, Paul provided us with a bit of a hot lap earlier on. So let's go on board around the Imola circuit, going past the pit entry on the right-hand side. It is an exceptionally long pit lane around here, so making sure that you do only make the one stop and don't have to do any more outside of the pit window could be crucial. Drifting over to the right-hand side of the track as you spot your braking zone for the Tamburello chicane. Be as greedy for curbs as you dare. Of course, the stiffer setup you've got on your suspension, the more risky it is going to be over there, but the more rewards if you get it right. Nice and tidy. Then you come through Villeneuve, a faster first part of the chicane before you bring it down the gears in towards 3rd for the second part. Again, taking it nice and tidy. Now a slight climb up the hill for that Tosa hairpin. Outside of turn number 1 at Tamburello and outside a possible move into Avanza could well be one of the best overtaking points. Climbing up the hill now towards one of the highest parts of the circuit. Coming over the top of that crest, spotting your braking point towards the Piratella corner. You want to take it in as high a gear as possible, and that is going to be a corner that really does separate the men from the boys. Now, Acqua Minerale, extreme confidence needed on the brakes at this part of the track. You need to be brave to get the most possible time as you climb once again throughout this undulating circuit in the Emilia-Romagna region towards the Variante Alta. How much sausage curves do you take at this part of the circuit could determine whether you're on pole position or a bit further down the order. Now you head down the hill towards the double Ravazza left-handers. Again, possible overtaking opportunities in the race into the first one, breaking down towards second gear. And then for the second reverser, it's just make sure you get the best exit that you possibly can. Light up the rear tyres in the Lamborghini. Put all of those horses down as we finish a lap around the circuit. And a very tidy lap indeed.
Yeah, it makes a change for a tidy lap from me. I don't think I could do it quite as consistently as the guys we're going to be watching can, but nor as quickly, should I add, as I'm imagining they're going to go somewhat faster than that in this qualifying session. We've already got cars on track looking like they're having a little bit of a battle out in their qualifying laps. We've got Marius, who's got Popa right behind him, and at the moment I'm not sure if Popa wants to get by or not. He's sort of wiggling around behind, umming and ahhing, I think, about whether he wants the track position or whether he just wants to follow Marius on a hot lap. But, getting some heat through the tyres is what's on the mind of pretty much every single driver out there at the moment, making sure they've got the optimum tyre pressures ready to go for when they blast out of the final corner onto their hot laps. And I'm just trying to see who is on a hot lap at the moment. Looking at the map, we've got quite a few cars possibly out there at the moment on a hot lap. Not least Klaus Christensen and David O'Hack, I believe, are the first two.
Yeah, David O'Hack just coming around he's just coming around Aqua Minerale now, heading up the hill towards the very anti-outer. Was up there last week, just maybe didn't quite have the pace in the race compared to Riccardo Demarchi. Being such a short series, it is mathematically impossible that Demarchi wins the championship tonight. He's going to need bad races for a lot of those that were high up the order last time out and for him to take a victory, but again, it is still mathematically possible, even if it is almost certainly not going to happen. But we'll see what sort of time O'Hack gets here. We were seeing 144s there in the practice session, so whether they'll be a bit faster in what are different conditions. 24 degrees air temperature, 31 degrees track temperature. O'Hack heading towards the finish line and a 1:33.970 straight away. Faster than what we saw him do in the practice session. Nathan Samba, next car to head towards the line. He was in third place last week. 1.5 seconds off at the moment, so someone's already wiped out a cone and left it in the middle of the pit straight.
Yeah, I'm not sure. While you were going over the replay, Liam New had a bit of a moment just coming out of his pit box, just lit the rears up. Of course, they'll be stone cold coming out of there, not a lot of pressure in him at all, so it just caught him off guard and he wound up taking a couple of the cones off the pit exit. So I'm wondering if one of them managed to drift its way towards the circuit. Shouldn't pose anybody any issues as the times are starting to come in thick and fast now. We've got Schultz has moved up into second position with a 1:44.5. We've got a 45.2 for Klaus Christensen. Not where I would have expected him on the grid, but of course we still have plenty of time left in the qualifying session for him to get back towards the sharper end as we saw last week. Danny Wings set a time a 1:46, and he's just been usurped out of 6th position by Mark Coltai on a 45.6. So there's plenty of times coming in right now, and I'm taking a look at David O'Hack, who currently looks like he's on a very quick lap, judging by what I can see on my second screen with the timings on at the moment. So he could be about to go even faster than that 43.9, which is already that's 0.6 of a second faster than anybody else has done so far, and really raising the bar already in qualifying.
Yeah, fantastic lap from him. Quite a few drivers, Christensen, New, Gabler, Popa and Brady, all invalidating their laps, all getting done for track limits. We got a lovely helicam shot there. See what David O'Hack can do this time as he comes across the finish line. Was it an improvement? No, 44.1 in the end, but still faster than what we've seen any of the other drivers done. So I don't think he'll be too bothered about that. We have got a new driver here tonight that we've not seen so far this season, Eduardo Gonzaga. He's one of the AM class drivers. Again, don't necessarily assume that because they're AM class they are slower. Might just be drivers who have a bit less experience on this game. He is in 11th at the moment, but this lap was definitely looking a bit quicker. We've got a car behind him as well. I believe that's Patrick Dane, not too far behind either. So Gonzaga now, he's heading towards the finish line. Is it going to be an improvement from him? Can this move him off the bottom of those that have set a time? No, not in the end. Johannes Mellers now heading towards the line as well. Are we going to see a bit of an improvement from him? Car number 69 does improve time-wise, does not improve position-wise, as we have got a yellow flag there briefly. I think that was Klaus Christensen just pulling off the road. You are allowed to return to track in this qualifying session, but straight away I think we're seeing just from the cars, you know, like for example, like Gabler, like Popper, like Christensen, where it's taken them a couple of laps to get a clean lap in, we're already seeing just how crucial keeping it clean in terms of track limits is going to be throughout this race.
Yeah, absolutely right there. It is very, very important indeed, as everybody on a lap, in fact, Gabler's invalidated, but everybody on a lap so far is still keeping it nice and clean, and Nathan Samber's improving quite a bit so far. It's just got him coming, that's the number 97 car, so he's just coming down to Ravazza now. He's half a second up on his best at the moment, which might not sound like a lot, but that is going to jump him up at least one position if he keeps on with that pace. In fact, he's improved even more on the exit of Ravazza, so he might jump up another couple of positions. He might be able to just about get past Popper as he crosses the line 8/10 faster, and it was indeed enough to get past Klaus Christensen as well. A 44.6 manages to do the business there for Nathan Samber and get himself up into P5. And as we were saying that, O'Hack raises the bar once more with a 43.8. He's finding little bit by little bit more time, but he's getting gained on. Last week's race winner, Riccardo De Marchi, is just nipping at his heels, 2/10 off, 144.0. Could he be the second driver we've seen tonight to get into the 43s? Can he take the fight to David O'Hack, who just seems to have oodles of pace right now in this qualifying session so far? Taking a look at his lap at the moment, he could well be getting closer. Let's see what I think he's about to cross the line. In fact, it was a 43.9. So yeah, he's the second driver into the 43s and edging ever closer to David O'Hack.
Yeah, De Marchi, we saw this from him last week. Left it quite late to take pole position and then had a fantastic, well, I say he had a fantastic start to the race. O'Hack actually got the better start, but on that outside line into the Rettifilio on Monza was always going to be difficult to get the overtake done. De Marchi got the overtake, was able to manage his tyres just that tiny bit better in the first stint to build a bit of a gap, and even when he did make a few mistakes later in the race, he had the advantage, so never really looked like he was going to get beat. We haven't spoken too much about what pit strategies are going to be like, as Liam New tested out the sausage curves on the exit of Variante Alta. I think if you were in VR mode, you'd definitely feel a bit queasy if you went over them too fast. It's a 60-minute race with one compulsory pit stop that must be taken between 20 minutes or 40 minutes, and we saw a lot of drivers leaving it late last week just so obviously they could put a bit less fuel in the car at the end of the race and just push those tyres more at the end. It's not really a worry for these cars and these tyres to do 40 minutes non-stop.
No, it's not. It's just a case of you do lose a little bit of pace the longer you go, of course, as you're shedding rubber off those tyres nonetheless, even if it's not enough to really make a massive difference. But you will feel it behind the wheel of the car as time goes on, that grip just slowly eroding away. And I know a lot of the drivers have been saying they haven't really planned their pit strategy. They're just going to play it by ear, how the feel of the car is as the race goes on, and of course judging where other cars are around them if they're being held up. For example, we might see them coming in a little bit early so they can use their pace a little bit better to make an overtake either on an undercut or an overcut as time goes on. But yeah, it's tyres, not really the worry. It's just about the feel of the car for so many of these drivers. When they start to feel the tyres going off, that's when we'll start to see them coming in. And pretty much going through those interviews we had before the race, pretty much every single one of the drivers was like, yeah, I've not really thought about strategy. I'm just gonna wing it and play it by ear and see what happens.
Just imagine having that confidence. You're going into a race and you're like, yeah, it's fine. I'll just see what happens. I'll just do what I do and enjoy myself a bit more. And I always feel if you're in that mindset, you can always, as long as you don't go too far relaxed, it is always nice just to be a bit calmer heading into a race. De Marchi actually had gone faster than O'Hack, but I think we just saw from the camera angle and cut the line a bit too much on that slight right-hand kink towards the finish. Would have been a 1:43.782, but I think with that had invalidated his lap time. But looking pretty good in second place. Schultz up there in third at the moment. And then Maria, Samba, Popper, Christensen, Brady, Mellors, Wing, Coltai, Dane, Gonzaga, New, and Gabler still yet to set a time. He's still pumping in some laps out there at the moment. We're just seeing what Patrick Dane can do. And the midfield battle last week was really decided pretty much by consistency, by who could keep it nice and clean. That is how Julian Schultz got 5th place, because a lot of the drivers behind him and around him had different issues in the week, whether it was a bit of contact, picking up penalties, having a spin on their own. He kept it nice and clean and was rewarded with that 5th place.
Yeah, he absolutely was. We did see some fantastic racing up until we saw those couple of unfortunate incidents happen. The one that sticks out in my memory is that incident with Danny Wing round through Ascari last week. That was highly unfortunate and spoiled a little bit a battle that we had brewing for a very large number of laps. But hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, and all of that other superstitious stuff, that we get some nice clean racing tonight with no mistakes, no contacts or anything like that, no netcode or anything getting in the way, and we can see those battles that we sort of missed out on a little bit last week reform and show us what everybody is capable of, because it was thrilling stuff up until those incidents happened, with how close the guys are on pace, where they were on the track. Meant, yeah, they were swapping positions and sort of driving in each other's mirrors almost constantly for at least the first half of the race.
Yeah, you never really knew who was going to end up taking that position. I think that probably did allow the front three drivers and Christensen to break away a bit. Samba was one of those top three, and it looks like this lap is going to be good enough to put him in towards third place now. The 97 car heading towards the finish line. He should be rounded about a 144, 144, 212 in the end for Nathan Samba. Puts him into third place as he now just heads back towards the pit to refuel, put a bit of fresh rubber on, and give it a final assault in this session. Jason Gabler still yet to set a clean time. He's really finding things quite tough around here at the moment. 15th of the 15 drivers, 7 minutes remaining. O'Hack still on top, but similar to what we saw last week, DeMarchi has kept being able to just knock a 10th of a second off, and we'll see whether the number 13, whether the Slovenian driver can just find a bit more pace and secure himself that pole position, because we already know it is going to be that pole. It is going to be that run down towards turn number 1. If you get into turn 1 first, that's going to be your best chance of winning this race.
It absolutely is, and it will be very close between the two, as we've seen on pace already. David O'Hack and Riccardo DeMarchi very, very close together when it comes to lap time at the very least, and the reaction off the start is going to be very, very key. Of course, it's going to be the same start as we had last week, so that rolling start is going to be absolutely crucial to react to those lights going green as quickly as you possibly can to try and out jump your rivals, because turn 1, that's going to be the crucial key point of this race for a lot of the drivers. It's going to be very tricky outside of turn 1, lap 1 to make any sort of a move happen unless you have a lot more pace than the other driver, or you can force them into a mistake. Of course, that is another option. If you are similarly matched on pace, of course, just try to get those unforced errors to come in, get in your opponent's head, drive in his mirrors, make your car seem bigger than it is. It sounds very simple stuff, but it works sometimes, and you need nerves of steel when it comes to a track like this, to have somebody who's similarly paced behind you and still focus on your own race and keep your car pointing where it needs to be. So it'll be very interesting to see if we see any sort of mind games unveiling in the midfield after that turn 1, lap 1, which is going to be so crucial.
Yeah, I think judging by what we've seen so far, it is going to be a race of, well, not quite attrition, a race where keeping it clean is going to be important. So making sure you are close enough to the car in front to take advantage if they do make a slight mistake, if they do go a tiny bit deep, you could put yourself in a good position. It's still looking pretty close, sort of, in that midfield at the moment. You can see Mellors and Coulter, you've got 8 thousandths of a second between them. Brady and Poper, Brady and Poper's only about 2 thousandths of a second, as O'Hack has gone even quicker. He's done a 1:43.640 as the car, number 13 car, and just breaks the heart, I imagine, a bit of Riccardo DeMarchi, who was improving only by a few hundredths of a second on his lap, and who knows, might still be able to consolidate that second place. He's going to need to find a lot more time, and to be honest, Pru Varianti Alta did just pick up another 10th of a second, so a bit like last week, this qualifying session could be decided by hundredths of a second.
Yeah, not only that, but it is absolutely going down to the wire. I've been watching the relatives and the improvements that these guys have been making the whole way through each of those laps, and DeMarchi, he's finding time, but then he's also losing time at the same point. So if he manages to string a good lap together with sort of all of his best moments, if you like, through that, he could rival O'Hack's pole position pace, even with a 1:43.6 on the board. But it's whether he can do that with 3 and a bit minutes left in the session. He's only got, realistically, maybe 2 laps to hook together a good, solid, clean lap now to try and get past. He's just started another one. He's 20 seconds into his next lap as Riccardo De Marchi. David O'Hack's not improving on this one, so this would be the time to strike if you are behind the wheel of that number 29 car. In fact, O'Hack is slowing down for the moment. So is he? No, he's not coming into the pits. He's just going slowly, I think, to let somebody through, or just chilling out on the tyres. Either way, he's yeah, he was just coming through with Vatsa, so I think he was just leaving himself a little bit of space. And that shows how much he's thinking already, as most of the drivers are sort of chilling out together on the road. O'Hack knows he wants to go faster. He needs to go faster. He's leaving himself the room to go faster as he starts a lap, and he has just about done that now. But De Marchi improving. He's gained time and lost time through Acqua Minerale. I think his exit wasn't as good as his best lap, so all the time he made up mid-corner just immediately went away again. And a similar story is he goes through the Variante Alta. Again, he makes makes time on the way in, and then loses it on the way out. So trying perhaps a different driving style to try and get that last little bit of time as well now, Riccardo De Marchi, and we'll have to see if it works as we really get close to the end of the session.
Yeah, seems like he's going a bit more aggressive on the entry of corners, and obviously that loses time on the exit, and about 1 or 2 attempts up coming through the middle sector. He's losing that time in the final part of the lap. I don't think this is going to be quite good enough for De Marchi. And a second 1:44.0 in a row. We can see he's got that consistent pace in the car at least. Just not quite doing enough at the moment to really challenge for pole position. O'Hack looking good. He's backed off again on this lap now. Just leaving it all until... Well, leaving it all out there until one, maybe, final run. What is Nathan Samba doing? Car number 97 in a... I was about to say a safe third place, but Schultz has managed to close up to the back of him on that last lap. So maybe it'll be Samba and Schultz having a bit of a battle rather than Samba and Christensen, as we thought we were going to get at points last week. The very experienced Dane driver did look as though he was closing up to his fellow ERT man, but did just spread that gap out a bit later on. Nathan Samba coming around with that. So now this is going to be an improvement perhaps, and you never know, this might get him up and whereabouts De Marchi is at the moment. So maybe, just maybe, Samba's got time to spring a bit of a surprise here and get that 97 car on the front row of the grid. Let's see what it can do now, heading towards the finish line. Lost a bit of time in the final sector, but still a 1:44.067, consolidating that third place for him. And again, De Marchi has lost time. I think he has just got enough time to get out there and get one more lap in. O'Hack is in the pit lane. Tell you one man who is finding plenty of time though, Marius and Brady, both of them around half a second up at the moment.
I was just about to say that then. Yeah, Nikolai Marius is 0.6 up on the previous lap, which would be enough to realistically be threatening the time of Riccardo De Marchi. And that's 0.7 even, so maybe, just maybe, if you can find a little bit more time on the exit of Ravazza, he's getting close to the time that O'Hack's going to have put down as well. This should be good enough for P2 for Marius as we cross the line in the number 10 car. It is indeed. There it is. Second place of 43.777. And that's faster by 0.2 than De Marchi managed. We thought De Marchi was going to be threatening David O'Hack's time, and then in comes Marius in the dead grasps of qualifying as the checkered flag comes out almost, and gets himself onto the front row of the grid.
Yeah, Marius, better late than never, leaving it right until the end. Didn't really look like a race-winning challenger last week, but maybe this circuit just suited him a bit more. Drivers now heading towards the finish line. Gonzaga can't improve at the end of this session. He is going to stay in 13th place for now. Samba's finding some time here. Goes very deep, though, into the first part of Ravazza, runs over the gravel. And I think any hope Samba had there, possibly of getting onto the front row of the grid. He's carrying on with the lap. No, I think at the last minute decides, yeah, I've lost over time on that one. Might as well come back into the pits. Such a shame, because it was looking like a very decent lap there from Nathan Samba. Looks as though he might be able to challenge for the front row of the grid. Just getting a tiny bit greedy at the end of that one. Johanny Mellers now, what can he do in the final part of the lap? In 9th place, needs to find quite a large margin at the moment, which it just doesn't look like he is going to do. So the number 69 car, this should be good enough to just keep him in that 9th place for now. And yeah, it's just slightly slower than his personal best. Patrick Dane in the end sends it ahead of him. Again, that midfield section looking really close. Barely any gap between 9th and 10th at the moment. Can Daniel Wing get himself into that 9th, 10th and 11th scrap? He heads towards the line. The 243 car improved time, and we've now got 4 cars in between 35 thousandths of a second. Marius was staying on his lap. He was unable to find any time in the end. And that is it for qualifying time. You can see them on the left-hand side there. O'Hack, the fastest. Marius in second. Demarchi, Samba, Schultz, Brady, Christensen, Poper, Dane, Mellers, Coltai, Wing, Gonzaga, New and Gabler will be your grid.
Yeah, what a tight grid it is, as you say. Just thousands of a second separating 4 cars in the midfield. We are in for a brilliant race, especially with what we've got going on at the front as well. With our Hack, Marius and Demarchi all being very close. What can Marius do? A great qualifying coming in there in the number 10 car, putting it on the front row of the grid, separating what we thought were going to be the 2 main rivals in this race at least. And throwing an extra spanner in the works. We saw that it started out as a bit of a 3-car battle in the at Monza, but it did sort of wind up being more a 2-car fight towards the end. So once again, with a 3-car battle ahead of us for that lead, let's see how long that can go on for, and whether he can do anything. Ken Samba, we saw as well, he was having a good bit of pace towards the end of that qualifying session as well. Could he throw himself into that lead battle as well, now that everybody is sharing the same bit of road? And that midfield battle, that is absolutely going to be the one to watch for me. With all those times we saw them locked into some quite intense battling last time out around Monza, it's looking like it's going to be the same thing here. Very similar on pace, tricky to overtake. That's where the mind games are going to come in, I think.
Yeah, I think we are going to see some mind games. Like you mentioned, Paul, just deciding when you want to move to one side of the track, whether you're trying to force a driver in front of you into a bit of a mistake. That could be the thing. That could be good enough for these drivers just to make the difference between taking the win and finishing further down the grid. Reminder, Demarchi can win the championship tonight, but don't think we're really going to those sorts of permutations until, or if it ever looks like it is going to be a possibility. And we'll just run through some of our sponsors here at One Hub while we've got the opportunity. A big thanks to Vespertine. They've partnered One Hub for a while. ERT as well, a racing team that a lot of the admins and, of course, the drivers here race for. They've been a massive partners of the league since they got involved. Next Level Racing have provided prizes over the years, so make sure to check them out for all your gaming chairs and gaming rigs. They even do some flight simulator stuff, which sounds very interesting. You'll have already noticed the SimGrid logo on the stream. That is where all the drivers can sign up for our leagues, as well as the PlayStation and the F1 side of things on PlayStation, as well as PlayStation ACC. Pure Sim Gear provide prizes to the drivers in the league as well. So, drivers now just getting ready to go on to their formation laps. It's going to be a really interesting race, I think, this one, Paul. The tactics that are going to go on, it looks like we've got a bit more of a closer field than last time. I was going to say, apart from O'Hack, things were pretty close together, but we saw from Marius and we saw from Demarchi, if they could keep it clean, they could challenge him for the victory.
They absolutely could. It's going to be a 3-car fight, and I feel like Turn 1, Lap 1, as I said during the qualifying session, that's going to be vital, as well as hitting the loud pedal when the lights go green. That fraction of a second ahead of your rival in front, that could be very, very important as well. Reacting to that race start, of course, a rolling start will get after the formation lap. And then, more than anything, I think strategy is going to play quite a key part in a lot of the positions we'll see changing around throughout this race. With how close the field is and how tricky it can be to overtake around here, I think, drivers may be thinking, if they're stuck behind somebody in front, maybe go for an earlier pit stop, get themselves into some clean air, and try and use that pace to jump them, and try the undercut. And whether that's going to work or not, that could be key to seeing a few of these positions change hands around a track that is notoriously a lot more difficult to overtake than you perhaps think.
Yeah, certainly. Drivers, as you can see, are just getting away on their formation lap. We've had a question here from Gazaman in the chat, a bit of a veteran in One Hub. What track do you guys prefer, Monza, Imola or Mazzano? I've got to be honest, it's the one we're going around tonight. I was so glad when this made its way back onto the Formula 1 calendar. Admittedly, I wish it had been in different circumstances, but Monza, Imola I should say, it's certainly a big challenge for all the drivers. And I just love those sort of old school circuits, ones where you can see there's plenty of grass and gravel around here. You are going to get punished if you run wide.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's a tricky one to answer for me, that, as I'm a simple man, so I like Monza. But also, the challenge of Imola can be very, very satisfying when you get the flow of the circuit right, when you get through all the corners in the right way. I know when I was recording that onboard lap that you showed earlier on, that was about an hour of recording to try and get a lap right, but when I did, it felt really, really good, especially for me, like the downhill braking zone into Acqua Minerale, just provoking the car into a little bit of a slide even through the braking zone and getting it stopped in time. It's such a good feeling when you manage to pull stuff like that off. So Imola may just edge out Monza, but Monza, it does have the old turn one Monza meme, so it's a very, very difficult one to answer for me.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, they've all got their own unique features as well. I mean, Misano, another one where turn number one can be exceptionally tricky, quite a fast sweeping circuit. I think Monza, something about the simplicity of it as well. It is quite a simple circuit. Yes, they've added chicanes for safety reasons and to slow the cars down over the years, but it's the closest you get to really a true speed test in sort of GT racing. Well, in pure GT racing, admittedly at Le Mans, that is an extremely fast circuit indeed, especially when you're heading down the Mulsanne straight. But they've all got their own features, and I'm glad we're going to get to see the drivers around all of them. Of course, next week it is going to be round 3 at Misano, but for now, we're about to have 1 hour of action around here, and it is all up to Mr. David O'Hack on pole position this week. Got beaten into second place last week by Riccardo Di Marchi. He knows if they finish as they start, he's going to be taking the championship lead into the final round. But there is 60 minutes of action and plenty of laps, and hopefully plenty of fantastic racing to come here for round number 2, as it is all up to O'Hack now to just control that pace. Decide when you're putting the hammer down. Marius has got to be careful to make sure that he doesn't overtake him before he gets to the start finish line, otherwise he will get a penalty. All 15 cars just getting ready, just line it up. We wait for this race to go green. It's not that finish line, it's deceptive. There is one a bit further up. That will be the start line. And there it is. We are off and underway. O'Hack again getting a pretty decent start. A bit like last week. Marchi, coming under and pretty fresher. This time around, it's going to be Samba, and they're going 3 wide in towards turn number 1. Someone's going to have to yield. Samba backed out of that one. But Di Marchi, similar to last time, doesn't get the best start, but makes up with it with some fantastic bravery into turn number 1. He's got the position ahead of Schultz there, but it is O'Hack in the lead of this race. Di Marchi, Marius. Schultz now has actually got ahead of Samba. He did get bullied down the order in all of that, but everyone managing to make it through the first corners cleanly.
Yeah, clean-ish, I'd say. It did look, when you say Samba got bullied down the order, it did look like he got bullied a little bit towards the edge of the circuit there by Schultz, but Robin is racing, as they say, and he'll lick his wounds and come back as the race progresses. Currently down in 5th place is Nathan Samba. Further back, everybody keeping it nice and clean, as well as Gabler and New look like they're having a bit of a ding-dong battle. New coming out of the Piratella a little bit off the road there, and that gave the position to Gabler, so he's going to be looking to come back as we go forwards as well. Johannes Mellers and Danny Wing already starting that battle that we knew was going to be going on this side-by-side all the way through here, as Taylor Brady's gone off on the inside. That's very unfortunate. Has he got any damage there? That's just at the entrance to the Variante Alta. Let's see if I can see what happened there so I can share with you that information.
Looks like he's just pulled off to the side of the road there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's got perhaps a rig problem or something along the lines there, because it didn't look like there was any sort of contact with another car, whether he got something wrong in the earlier part of the lap. And yeah, that's a very, very odd one indeed. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that, but as we come across the line to finish off the first lap, David O'Hack is still leading from Riccardo Di Marchi, but Di Marchi is gaining and getting close, but saying that, he's just had to jump across as he gets the braking zone all wrong for the Tamburello, and that will give O'Hack some breathing room, I think. But Di Marchi did manage to slow down just enough to not pick up any penalties or anything like that for the line he took, but he did lose time. He's dropped to what's that, 1.1 seconds back now from David O'Hack, as Riccardo Di Marchi, as Samba and Schultz are going side by side through toast as well. Schultz still just ahead, but Samba's trying to get past. We saw him get bullied off on the first lap. He is right on the back of the bright green number 96 car right now, and can he get any moves done? Not really through Piratella. He's going to have to follow Schultz for a little while now, you'd have to feel, but will we see any brave moves as the race goes on from Samba? Is he going to be a little frustrated after that first lap and the way he got shuffled down the order? Or is he going to sort of keep it cool and play it safe and keep it going in a straight line? He's looking as we head down towards the Variante Alta, but choosing to hold his fire for now.
Yeah, probably the wisest thing to do at this point of the race. I think later on, if they're still this close together, we are going to see them sort of battles. And that all started with Schultz just getting a bit wide coming out of Villeneuve. It actually looks as though Schultz was starting to put Marius under some serious pressure. And while all this has been going on, we've seen mistakes from a few different drivers. It has allowed O'Hack to just extend a bit of a lead to be in a new position where we didn't get to see him last week because it was DeMarchi who had this looks of it at Monza. As they come across the line to finish lap number 2, O'Hack now has a 1.8 second lead, and we are just starting to see the gaps again start to spread out a bit throughout the field. Koltai all over the back of Mellers, and he's got Wing not too far behind him, the Hungarian driver Scorpion, as some of you might know him from on One Hub on the F1 platform. Certainly feeling a bit grieved by what happened last week. Fair play to him. He said the drivers got asked who was your biggest rival last week, and he was honest and just said it was my pit limiter button. Went too fast into the pit lane, 30-second stop-go penalty, and absolutely killed his race. At least then we could have some fun overtaking in the latter stages. He'll be hoping though that he can get past Mellez sooner rather than later, just to start working his way up the order. I feel this could be a race-on battle though for third place between Marius Schultz and Samba.
It absolutely could, and I'm happy to say it looks like whatever issue was plaguing Taylor Brady that caused him to pull off, he has definitely overseen that. I've just watched him go past Gabler and New on this lap. New looked like he was trying to mount some sort of a comeback, but I think Brady's just got a little bit too much pace for him at this phase of the race, and has managed to keep that car ahead. So he's starting to make his way back through the field, as he did break a little bit more than New was expecting there into Acqua Minerale. It was very good reaction times from New to not go into the back of Taylor Brady, but everybody's still going on for the time being. Now Brady is setting off after Gonzaga, who's on a much better lap at this point. And in fact, every single driver now, I think, has found their pace for this phase of the race. They're all improving on their best times. And yeah, there's a few to watch. I saw a bit of dust being kicked up there from Patrick Dane as well in the middle part of Ravazza. With Johannes Mellers charging as he is, this could be a battle that's brewing over the next couple of laps as well. Mellers could be starting to draw Dane in, and with him, he'll bring Mark Koltai and Daniel Wing. And this could be a 5-car battle in the midfield we have coming up very, very soon. Yeah, it could well be. A bit like last week, it seems like Christensen might just end up being on his own. Last time it was for 4th place, but now he's currently just in 6th place. Seeing Samba drive away on the back of that pack and be able to pull away from Popper, Dane, Mellers, Koltai and Wing. I'd imagine once he gets past Gonzaga, and no offence to Eduardo, I think it will be a when he gets past rather than an if. I imagine Taylor Brady will have the pace to be able to catch himself up into that pack as well. But fair play to Liam New. He's hanging all over the back of him. And Liam doing a good job here. He is racing on the pad, but he could probably learn a bit just from following one of these quicker drivers and just seeing what sort of lines they take. Yeah, absolutely. Just follow the car in front. As you can see, they've both managed to pull Gonzaga in now as well, who is sort of out on his own. New getting a little bit on the grass coming into it. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. I saw him kicking up a little bit of the dust as we came through Piratella, and that does unfortunately mean he's going to drop off the back of Taylor Brady. In fact, off the back of Jason Gabler as well there. Just a little bit. That shows how easy it is to get it wrong in these cars. A little bit of grass on the way into a braking zone, and bye-bye position, as almost saying bye-bye possession is Gonzaga's. Taylor Brady is lining him up for a move. I thought he was going to go for it into the Variante Alta there, but he held fire for now as we come down the hill towards Ravazza. He is pushing the number 92 car down the hill. He looks like he's going to try. No, again, he's holding off. He's driving in the mirrors of Gonzaga. I'm not sure how much he needs to do this, because it does look like he's got that little bit more pace just from the speed that he's reeled Gonzaga in. Maybe just choosing his moment to get through more than anything else. But he keeps taking a look at the gap, and Gonzaga looks like, for all of the pace difference that these two drivers have, does seem to have quite good corner exits, and that's making life difficult for Taylor Brady right now. But he is finally going to get the move done down into turn 1. Brady up the inside. Thank you very much, and back up to P12 goes the number 12.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who has found some pace all of a sudden. It's this man who's going for a move. down the inside of Tozer on our championship leader. Nikolai Marius, fastest lap of the race last time by a good 6/7 of a second, has got himself now up into second. And he's going to see if he can charge past David O'Hack. Just seems to have all of a sudden found plenty of that pace in the Lamborghini. Admittedly, for taking lines like he did just then through Piratella, that could explain some of where his pace has come from. But he is up towards second place. DeMarchi drops back. And Schultz and Samba, as of yet, have not really been able to follow the number 10 car.
No, but just looking then, DeMarchi was looking for a way back through on Nikolai Marius into the Variante Alta, and that again looked a little bit wide from Marius there, and it didn't look like he was able to get the power down as he was coming off the Variante Alta, so that could give DeMarchi a chance to come back as he's got the inside into the right kink. Not quite. Is he going to try a late braking move? No, he's going to hold on, but with these two scrapping now, that has brought Schultz in, and look at how close he is to the back of DeMarchi now. So Marius, whilst he could be thinking, oh yeah, DeMarchi's going to be coming back at me, look at the gap he's pulling out compared to the gap between DeMarchi and Samba right now. DeMarchi and Schultz, sorry, right now. Schultz is right on the back of DeMarchi, and for someone who we thought was going to be rivaling the pole position time through qualifying and being the big thorn in the side of David O'Hack this race, he's coming under a lot of pressure, and there is the sign of that pressure. Across the inside, across the gravel, through the Variante Tamburello, and he loses one position to Julian Schultz, and Samba all over the back of him as well as we come through here. In fact, no, that's not Samba. It is Samba, sorry. I'm looking at the cars in the wrong order. But yeah, Samba, look at that around the inside. And that's another position dropped as we go to Tosa, and it's that little bit of contact almost with DeMarchi trying to get late on the brakes, but he's lost 2 positions in this lap alone.
He's lost 3 positions in the space of a lap. He just doesn't seem confident on the brakes whatsoever. That's the second time we've seen him go off at Tamburello, and then running a bit wide there at Villeneuve as well. So it's all just starting to go wrong for DeMarchi at the moment. He's still in the top 5, and maybe if he could just take a couple of laps, clean up those tyres, relax on the back of Marius, Schultz and Samba, I wouldn't write him off yet for a good performance. Coltai also still all over the back of Melees and dragging along Daniel Wing as well. Taylor Brady getting ahead of Gonzaga. Well, he was 1.5 seconds faster than Wing on the previous lap, and you can just see him there in the background, that lone blue and pink Lamborghini, just trying to close his way onto the back of this pack. Whatever issue he had on lap number 1, it has been very costly for him, but thankfully seems to have got over the worst of that now and does seem to be able to continue on without too many issues on this race. It is still O'Hack leading. We'll see what the time is across the line then. It was 2.5 seconds on the previous run between himself and Marius. It is 2.7. He's still just doing enough to extend that gap at the moment and pull himself away. Samba, he's wishing he could extend the gap at the moment. He's got DeMarchi all over back of him, the Italian, going for a late move down the inside end to Tamburello on the brakes, gets it done, but Samba should get a better exit and should be able to fight back if he can just place the car right and if he can just get it all okay in towards Villeneuve. DeMarchi driving the widest Lamborghini on the circuit at the moment, going a bit too wide, and Samba says thank you very much, I will retake that position. Or will he? Number 29 car very determined to hold on to that 4th place. Who can blame him? And all of a sudden, Marius and Schultz driving off into the distance. We're starting to see Christensen close up onto this battle for 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the problem when you start scrapping like this. It costs you lap time, and you just watch as the other drivers pull away from you. There's nothing you can do. If the car behind you is intent on getting past, you have to scrap with him. You can't really just go, I don't mind for now. And because that could really hurt you later on. And DeMarchi really feeling the pressure. He just had to drop across the inside there of Aqua Minerale, across the outside, sorry, the inside outside, the way that corner flows, of Aqua Minerale, and that will cost him if he keeps doing that. He's not got any drive-throughs yet, but you gotta feel with the way he's been driving the last couple of laps. You know, a few wheels on the gravel here, cutting across the first chicane, cutting across the inside of the second part of the Variante Aqua Minerale, sorry. He's got to be getting close to a drive-through. We're only 12 minutes into this race. He needs to be extra careful, does DeMarchi, otherwise he's going to be taking a trip down pit road and waving to his team. No tyre changes will be allowed there at all. Of course, the pit window doesn't open for another 8 minutes, so he might still be able to make something work on strategy if it happens, but yeah, that's not going to be what you want if you are Riccardo DeMarchi, nor Nathan Samba, who in his little scrap he's also losing out at the moment to those other two, of course, as that's Damaci running wide again, coming out of that sequence of corners at Tamburello, and Samba can only sit and watch for the time being and just try and pray that he can get through somewhat safely on his rival up ahead. And just a quick update as well on what's been going on a little bit further back. We've got Liam News off the road with a lot of damage to his Lamborghini at the moment, which is unfortunate for him. I saw some yellow flags. I didn't quite catch what the incident was, but he is now being lapped by our leaders, is the current state of the damage on that Lamborghini. Gonzaga also driving around with a little bit of damage. He had a little bit of a spin coming out of Acqua Minerale a couple of laps ago. Face first into the barrier, not too bad, but you can see the signs of wear on that car as well, way back off the pace for now. But our eyes are absolutely glued to what's going on in this lead battle. In fact, Damaci on this lap, as I've been saying that, has pulled ahead a little bit of Samba now, so got himself a little bit of breathing room. Maybe time to settle in and try and reel Schultz back in.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this last time around from Damaci. Yes, he was a bit more comfortable, obviously. He was leading the race, but it was really once the pit window opened and towards the end of that stint, he was able to just consistently pull 2/3 of a second a lap on O'Hack, and that meant he had a big enough gap that even when he had a few issues towards the end of the race, similar to what we've seen here, getting it wrong, obviously here it's been Tamburello and Villeneuve. Last time out, it was the Rettifilio that caused him problems, I think, 2 laps in a row, if I'm not mistaken. He's got that bit of a margin, and again, now just starting to show some good pace. That was his best lap of the race, was it? No, I think it would have been his best lap, but again, track limit just costing him slightly. And again, those front 3 drivers all going faster than him. O'Hack, Marius and Schultz are your top 3 at the moment. We said Christensen might be closing up to the back of Samba. What has actually happened here is we've got Guillaume Popa, the Romanian, thankfully for his sake, having a cleaner race than last time. Fair play to him, put his hands up, got it wrong after having the incident with Brady in the early stages last week, which ruined the race for Brady. Popa's having a better job, and he's now just started to put Christensen under some pressure, and this is the first time outside of lap 1 in either race we've seen Christensen close to another car.
Yeah, he must be jumping for joy, or whatever the equivalent would be while sitting in a sim rig, because he's actually getting some racing action this time around in Imola, with cars in front of him that he can see and cars behind him he can definitely see as he kicks up a little bit of the dust coming through Acqua Minerale. And Samba will be watching this in his mirrors and just thinking, okay, Damaci's got past me, but those 2 behind look like they might be scrapping somewhat soon, so I may be safe to maybe relax and play it safe a little bit, maybe keep a little bit of life in his tyres and try something cheeky with a strategy with the pit window opening pretty soon. Maybe decide to go long and have a little bit fresher tyres towards the end, as little a difference as that may make. It could all be very, very important as the race unfolds, as Popa looked like he got a decent drive off of Ravazza there. He's pulling in Christensen little by little down the main straight. He's diving across to the inside as we head down to the Tamburello, but not quite brave enough on the brakes at this point to try a dive up the inside. But Christensen definitely knows he's there at this point, and this fight looks like it could go on a little bit, but Samba might fall back into the clutches as he just goes wide on the exit there as well.
Yeah, we're definitely still seeing those little more mistakes from quite a few drivers at the moment. I think if anyone manages to go throughout this entire race without any issues, it'll be a surprise. I definitely think we're going to get at least one person picking up some penalty. Who knows? We might get a few more, but it is Popa really applying the pressure on the back of Christensen at the moment. Further back, you've still got Melez. Well, it's now Wing and Coltai. We've missed that one happening. Coltai, who was putting the number 69 car under all sorts of pressure, has been passed by Daniel Wing in the 243 MTK Motorsport car. That Lamborghini is now in towards the top 10 last time around, as we just get the how Wing did last week, of course. And another driver just snatching a break on the way into Acqua Minerale. Of course, do one with traction control and ABS, but once that ABS starts to kick in, you're not going to be getting much steering done. Wing finished in 6th last week. He's going to need a bit of a performance here as he runs wide once more. Coltai's going to start to put him under pressure, and of course, Taylor Brady is as well. He really has worked his way up onto the back of these guys and could really have a say on how things go later on in this race. It looks as though Samba was just a tiny bit closer to Damaci there, and Popa still close to Christensen, but not really close enough to have a go on this occasion as they cross the lap for what is the on to lap number 11 now. Marius in the lead. Well, Marius in second place, sorry. Oh, Hack in the lead by 2 seconds for Marius. Schultz in third place. You can still see DeMarchi and Samba very close together. Popa and Christensen close together as well for 6th and 7th.
Yeah, and then you've got this fight that I'm keeping my eyes on with Danny Wing a little bit further back. He's had a bit of a scruffy lap on the previous lap, and that has really let Coltai reel him back in and bring Taylor Brady with him as we start on to what is, I believe, lap 11 of the race. He's been kicking up dust left, right and centre as Daniel Wing, and those little mistakes, it all started really in the previous lap at Variante Alta. He took too much curb on the way in, bounced his way across to the outside, and ever since then just been trying to push a little bit to try and run away from Coltai, and it's not really working out for him because those little mistakes are starting to creep in, and in fact it's having the adverse effect, and Coltai is pulling him in. So this fight is going to be brewing very soon. 6/10 was in fact the gaps seemingly swapping around again. It was 6/10 from Danny Wing back to Coltai, and over a second from Melez to Danny Wing, but Daniel Wing's back on the back of Melez now, so this battle continues to surprise as time goes on. And look, Melez having a very scruffy lap this time around, it would seem. It was 6/10 when they crossed the last timing line, but Daniel Wing looking like he might even be ready to set up a move into Ravazza at this point. He is that much closer to Melez at this time, and just a little bit too deep on the brakes, and now look, he's going wide and off the track. That's forced Coltai wide and off the track as well, and Taylor Brady diving up the inside into the second part of the Ravazza says, thank you very much. If you're going to follow your rival off the road, I'll sneak into that position. And now they are pretty much nose to tail down the main straight, Wing, Brady and Coltai, and who is going to be the braver one on the brakes? Brady has shown his pace already in this lap. Wing already defending to the inside. He's going to force Brady round to the outside as we head down towards Tamburello. A little bit of a wheel bang between the two of them, but they can keep it going in a straight line. Can Wing hold the position just about for now? But Brady is on the hunt in his own little mini last to first challenge as Coltai now looks like he's lining him up down towards Villeneuve. He's pulling across the inside. Brady's now looking towards the inside of Wing, and this battle's starting to heat up as the pit window is very nearly open. In fact, as I say that, it should be opening right about now. There it is.
Yeah, pit window has opened. Obviously, Brady, tiny little winner in that, gaining a position. I think the biggest winner of all was Melez. He's really been able to stretch that gap up now to see whether he can close in Patrick Dane, a bit like he was doing earlier on in this race. Back towards the front, David O'Hack is just starting to pull away now. He's just started to find some confidence in the car, I say, as he has a tiny little moment through Variante Alta. Did a PB on lap number 10 of a 1:43.9, followed that with a PB on lap number 11 of a 1:43.8, and that is how he has got that gap back up to 2.4 seconds. It is still Marius with the overall fastest lap of the race, but there are no points for the fastest lap in this division. You just get that tiny bit of pride. Neither of the leaders coming into the pits, which is very unsurprising. I think Gonzaga has taken a decision to come in quite early on. Liam New coming in to fix that damage from earlier on. Not sure whether that will be terminal damage, but the car obviously looked extremely damaged indeed. And we said someone might go for the undercut, and there it is. Klaus Christensen into the pits. He'd closed within half a second of Nathan Samba. He's decided now is the time. Put some fresh rubber on, get some fuel on to take him towards the end, and see what he can do.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll see how this plays out for him, where he's going to come out obviously into some lovely clean air once he gets the new tyres on. There's going to be nobody around him whatsoever except for possibly Jason Gablo, who's running quite far off the back of the pack, but given the pace difference, you have to feel that if Christensen does come across him, then that will be a pretty simple move around here for him, as he is now pulled into his pit box and the clean air awaits him when he comes out. I believe Gonzaga has come into the pits to fix the damage that he had as well. He was waiting for the pit window to open so he could take it as a mandatory pit stop. So he could be looking to try and claw some time back as well, so don't rule him out. He did have that little boot on the front nose earlier on that knocked it all out of shape on the Lamborghini. He's changed the tyres, he's done the damage repairs. It looks like he will be coming out of the pits fairly soon. As Liam knew, it doesn't unfortunately look like he will be. The car did look pretty bunged up when he came in. It's looking a lot better now, but I don't see it moving unfortunately, so that could be race over, it would seem, for the number 63. Klaus Christensen just coming out of the pits now, and there is a good example of that clean air. There's nobody around him, and he can really get the hammer down now, and we'll see if that undercut does work.
Yeah, just a demonstration, though, of how long the pit stops are around here. I mean, he's coming out of Tamburello now. The cars he were battling before, Samba and the others, are coming around with that. So will any of them feel the need to react? And yeah, we've actually got Julian Schultz is coming to the pits from 3rd place. Again, one of these drivers maybe just trying out a bit of an undercut, maybe just trying out things slightly differently to see what he could do. So it is now Ohak, Demarchi, Samba, Popa, your top 5. Samba, as he has been for a while, close to the back of Demarchi, just not really able to get close enough when it matters, and not close enough to possibly get himself onto the podium for a 2nd race in a row. Brady and Wing, they're certainly close together. They're going side by side there through the exit of Tamburello. Brady gets himself ahead. He's up into 8th place. We'll now see if he can chase after the number 69 car. We'll just get a replay up there to see how that started, and I think it is a very typical move. Brave to try it around the outside of Tamburello. Looks as though he's forced Wing to go a tiny bit deep there. Got the inside for turn number 3. Textbook from Taylor Brady. He is up into 8th.
Yeah, but don't rule Daniel Wing out. He did take a little bit of a look up the inside into Tosa, and again, he's driving a little bit into Taylor Brady's mirrors, trying to make sure he knows he's still there. He's not out of this just because of Taylor Brady coming back from right at the back of the grid and using that pace to get back through. Doesn't mean Daniel Wing's going to give the position up very easily. He is still in this, as we've got, is that Dane going side by side with Melez? No, Melez was looking for it though, but he's very, very close to the back of his fellow countryman at the moment, and these two are going to be racing a little bit, as I can see in the background there, Taylor Brady getting a little bit wide coming out of the Variante Alta. So as we head down towards Rivatsa and onto the main straight once more, we'll see if anybody else chooses to make their pit stop at this phase. Plenty of time left in the pit window, of course. No rush whatsoever. Dane and Melez both staying out, as are Brady and Wing. So we'll get to watch this battle continue as Melez is getting closer and closer to Dane as we head down towards Tamburello then. Looks like he's going to be forced around the outside of Dane. Can Dane defend? The inside is the preferable line, as we've seen a lot of the drivers taking it. Melez bumped wheels and they do go... that's a little bit scruffy. Melez winding up being bumped across the inside of the corner there. But he's not giving up on the move yet as we head through Villeneuve. It's looking almost side by side again, but scrapping going on. Taylor Brady's coming right up behind this fight, and he's bringing Daniel Wing with him, and it's once again 4 cars as Brady looks like he's trying to find a gap around the outside of Melez, who maybe wasn't even expecting Brady to be there. He'll definitely expect him now, as they are nose to tail as we head up towards Piratella. And is everybody going to keep it between the lines here as we head through? Who's going to get the better exit down towards the Aquaminarale? A little bit wide perhaps for Wing there. Brady was right on the raggedy edge as we head down the hill into the downhill braking. Not really any chances to overtake here. And it is still nose to tail between these 4. Who's going to be finishing this lap ahead of the other? Is Brady going to try anything into the Variante Alta? He looks like he's a little bit braver on the brakes. He goes on the inside and wheel banging, and Brady goes round. And I'm not sure Melez saw that coming. It was a very late lunge from Taylor Brady to try and slide the move up. He saw the gap there. Was it a little bit too ambitious from the number 12 car though? I mean, the gap was there. It was always going to close, but it's a tough call. But Brady takes the brunt of that one. He's got all that work to do again.
Yeah, just had a quick look at the replay as Melez comes into the pit. I think he had to go over the sausage curb, and once he was doing that, he was always ending into the side of Melez. So I think that one might just be determined as a racing incident. While we were seeing that fantastic battling going on for what was 8th place on that position, what we have seen now is Marius, he's still in 2nd place. Samba has got ahead of Riccardo Demarchi. So last week's race winner is now back down in towards 4th place. That will of course change in towards 5th after all the pit stops have worked out. It is Schultz for lead car who's been into the pits, with Melez and Brady coming in on that last lap, but Demarchi just dropping behind Samba on that occasion. No sign of any of these leaders coming in yet. I think again we are going to see them try and stretch it more towards either halfway, and if they go beyond halfway, I think we'll see him go all the way towards the 20 minutes as late as they can dare. That's what Demarchi did last week, and it certainly worked out for him, but Whether he's made a mistake, whether Samba's just been quicker, we're not too sure. Samba is now up to its 3rd place, but again, Demachi looking very aggressive on the back of the 97.
He is indeed, and it's a different situation, of course, to last week. Demachi was battling for the race lead, but he was kind of comfortable around Monza. He didn't really have to worry about much out front, so he could sort of pit whenever he felt like it, which is probably why we saw him go quite late. Just less of a case of that he needed to pit, but because he wanted to. But on this occasion, ooh, I thought he was going to go for it there following Samba. He's decided to do exactly the opposite of what Samba did, just using him for the toe as Samba dives down pit road. Demachi staying out, so this will be the real good tell of whether the undercut is good. Demachi, what pace can he do now? What pace will Samba be able to put out when he comes out of the pit lane? That could be very, very important for P2 at the very least, but David O'Hack's not going to be too worried, I don't think. He was way down the road. A very comfortable race indeed for the driver of the number 13 car, and I get the feeling we will just see him pit, not because he wants to, more because he needs to come towards the end of the pit window, as we're 28 minutes through this race now, so we're nearing the half distance. And yeah, O'Hack looking very, very comfortable. Nobody else really is at the moment.
Yeah, I think Patrick Dane, I'm not sure whether he's had some sort of connection issue or some issue in the pit stops, because his car is showing as in the pit lane, even though you can't really see what he's doing in there. So hopefully he'll be able to sort himself out. I'm going to keep an eye on where Christiansen comes out relative to Samba here, because he was not really too far behind his fellow ERT driver. He's just making his way down towards the pit lane now. I think you are going to see Samba just ahead on the right hand side there. So similar to what we saw last week, the pit stop strategy in terms of an undercut or an overcut isn't really making too much of a difference, and if anything, I think staying out longer might have been the best thing. And yeah, you can see that Dane says that he's been disqualified, so I can only imagine he has had some sort of connection issue. Such to say for Patrick Dane. But we are down to, effectively, with Gonzaga and you also being out of this race, we are down to effectively 12 runners. It once again looks as though everyone who finishes this race is going to be able to get themselves into the points. As Popa, he now comes into the pits. We'll see whether Wing and Gabler also decide to follow them in as well. Wing staying out there, just getting a bit of a glory run of remaining in the top 3 in this race. But O'Hack and Demachi, similar to last time, staying out there. And we'll keep an eye on, well, when he does eventually pit, we'll keep an eye on where Demachi does come out relative to Samba.
Yeah, I'm just going to be keeping one eye on the relative for Nathan Samba at the moment, just to see what sort of lap time he's going to be able to pump in. Obviously, this being his out lap, not expecting any sort of miracles. He's got to bring those tyres up to temperature, but will he be able to get some good times on them before we see Demachi diving into the pits? And where is Demachi on track at the moment? He's just coming through Piratella, so plenty of time for him to decide if he wants to make a stop on this particular lap. Plenty. He's losing a bit of time. In fact, he went off the road a little bit there as well, as I join in through getting Acqua Minerale quite wrong, and he can't have many of those left. We saw him go on little adventures earlier on in the race as well, and continuing those now as he's really aggressive through the curbs in the Variante Alta as well. Does keep it on the road as well, so he must have found a line he likes through there, even though it does look pretty damn brutal on that Lamborghini. And he's rounding Rivazza, so we'll see if he comes in, if he reacts to Samba. He's lost half a second on his best time on this lap, and he is indeed staying out still, so definitely choosing to go long at the moment is Demachi. So what can Samba do? He's not really improved on his best time yet either, but he could be bringing those in. But O'Hack is in, so our race leader into the pits in the number 13 car, handing the race lead, at least for now, to Riccardo Demachi.
Yes, if I were Demachi, I wouldn't only be worried about Samba, I'd be worried about Christensen. On the previous lap, Christensen was over a second faster than Demachi. We'll see what it is on the one that they've just done, but yeah, does look as though Christensen on those fresh tyres has got some decent pace at the moment. It also looks like Schultz has really been able to close onto the back of Bavius. This is the battle for the next second place. Just look at Julian Schultz in that 96, properly attacking the curves there. Really going quite aggressive at the moment. Just he knows there's a really good result on here. He knows there's a chance for what would be a best result of the season for him. So we'll wait and see what he can do. 7 minutes 35 for Demarchi, Wing and Gabler to come into the pits. As I can thankfully say, we did say he was out of the race. Liam New has been able to get his car fixed. He is back out there on track. I'm not too sure whether he'll be classified as he's 7 laps down, but still a good chance for him to get a bit more experience with the car and with the game, as we do know he is fairly new to ACC and PC racing in general.
Yeah, it's great to see him be able to get back out there. Of course, he wasn't able to take part in the race last week at Monza, so this is his first race in the season here around Imola. And regardless of the obstacles that have been thrown at him in the form of what seemed like quite massive car damage in the earlier part of the race, manages to get going again. And yeah, great to see him back out there and see what he can recover. At least, as long as he does 2 laps at the very least, it looks like he might be able to get past Gonzaga, who's only 7 laps down compared to the 9 laps that New is. So he's still got a position he can gain, maybe not in the way he wants it, but it's still on the table for him, assuming Gonzaga's race is over, as we believed it may be. I'm just trying to keep one eye. Daniel Wing's coming in now, so of the 3 drivers remaining, he will be the next to take the bullet and go down pit road. From what is at the moment 2nd place, Demarchi has chosen to stay out, and Gabler, who is just coming around Ravazza now, we'll see what he does. He also stays out, so 2 drivers yet to make their mandatory pit stop. And time is starting to run out on that pit window. There's about 5 minutes left, so we'll see them coming in fairly shortly, I'd imagine, as they will need to get that done, or risk a disqualification if they don't make that mandatory stop while the window is open.
Yeah, I think they'll only be able to pass for pits twice more, and then they will be forced to make their way in. Schultz has been showing some serious pace on that previous lap then. He was all over the back of Marius, but just couldn't quite get a move done. Demarchi, to his credit, he's actually setting his personal best lap on this time, so he's certainly got plenty of life in those tyres, and maybe that might just be enough to keep him safe from Samba, from Christiansen as well. Whether he'll be able to close up to the battle we're watching between Marius and Schultz, I'm not quite so sure. If I'm honest, Schultz seems to have certainly had the pace on Marius, but as we knew around this track position is going to be king, and he just can't quite make his way up at the moment, and just can't quite work his way past Marius. And there's always that danger if you're Marius, if you recognise you've got this car behind you, you start driving on your mirrors, you start defending fresh air. As soon as you do that, you're in big, big trouble.
Yeah, this is those mind games we were talking about earlier on. Schultz just needs to bide his time. He's got plenty of time left in the race, of course, 24 minutes of the session left to be able to make this move. So he's just got to sort of chill and try and force an error out of Marius. He doesn't need to try sliding the car in some sort of massive dive bomb into somewhere like here at the Variante Alta. He can just chill out a little bit. Drive up to the bumper of Marius every now and then, just drive in his mirrors, as we said, and eventually, if Marius isn't careful, he'll break to the pressure. But it does. It's all a matter of willpower at this point. How well can Marius sort of block out all of these mind games to hold on to P2 with such, well, almost half distance left in the race? It's very, very close, and it's going to go all the way to the wire, you have to feel, between these two, because they are very similarly matched on pace as well between the two. If we look at the best laps at the moment, a 44.160 is Marius's best lap, and in fact the best lap of the race. Schultz has done a 44.035 on the previous lap. So it's very, very tight between them, and it's only going to get tighter, I think, as this goes on.
Yeah, Schultz has managed to set his personal best on the previous lap and close the 3/10 off that he lost on the time before. This is just sort of the way this race is going between these drivers at the moment. Talking about doing their personal best laps of the race, O'Hack doing a 1:43.7 as well, just a bit slower than Marius's previous best lap of this race, but it's still looking good for O'Hack with 23 minutes remaining. He is the net leader in this race. Marius and Schultz having this battle for what is currently a net P2, and Demarchi still setting some very good pace on his older tyres. He will have to come into the pits though on this lap. With the pit window open for another 2 minutes 50, he is not going to be able to get around twice more to come into the pit. So it is now or never for the Italian once again, leaving it until the very last minute. What this will mean, of course, we've seen his fantastic tyre life management on this stint. He'll have fresher tyres than anyone at the end of this race. Who knows? He might also, rather than looking back at Samba and Christensen, might be able to look forward at Marius and Schultz.
Yeah, you have to think that'll be his goal. And I mean, these two scrapping as well, if they do start scrapping, can only play into Riccardo Damarchi's hands once he makes his pit stop, because he won't be far off the back, as you see Schultz getting wide on the exit of the second part of Ravazza, and that drops him back. And that's the sort of thing that Damarchi's going to want. If he wants to try and get himself up onto the podium this time, he's going to want these guys to scrap. He's going to want them to make mistakes, because that will allow him to close the gap once he makes his pit stop. And I'm just trying to see where he is on track at the moment. He is heading down towards Ravazza. So yeah, he is definitely going to have to make his pit stop on this time round. A 144. So yeah, with less than 144 if he were to go through the start line. This is where Damarchi will come into the pits. And where is he going to come out of the pits? I imagine it will be somewhere between Julian Schultz and Nathan Samba, but he has been setting some pretty good lap times on these in-laps that he's been doing, so he might have managed to do enough to sort of move himself up the order. He could come out in between this battle the way it's going at the moment. Time will tell, as Damarchi's still in the pits. He's just pulling towards his pit box now as this battle for the remainder of the podium makes its way through Acqua Minerale.
Yeah, they're just making their way up the hill. Gabler has, Gabler's not even got to the pits, so I was looking at the one car on the track map. Gabler's just about to come round with Atza now, so he'll be getting plenty of warnings off his race engineer. Look, you need to pit this lap, and that is going to be music to the ears of David O'Hack, because he was really starting to catch up to the number 26 car. So it is free air then for O'Hack. He crosses the finish line to end lap number 23 then, with just over 20 minutes to go. And last week's runner-up is leading this race and has got quite a comfortable lead as well. He's about 16 seconds ahead of Marius at the moment. He has done a very good job indeed. In fact, we'll check what the time is. 11.5 seconds once everything has calmed itself down on the timing chart. Schultz dropping a bit further back on that lap. We'll see where it's going to be here, actually, with Samba and Damarchi. Damarchi, I think, has just made his way out of the pit lane now, and in fact he's going to be pretty close here with Klaus Christensen looking at things. Christensen has jumped Damarchi.
So Damarchi picks up a stop-go penalty on the exit of the pits.
And I think he's pulled out.
That's race over. I think he got off the pit limiter a little bit too quickly while trying to get out ahead of Christensen, and that has proven absolutely crucial. He's gone. He's out of the race. Game over for Riccardo Damarchi. We thought he might be able to battle for the podium. He won last time out, but no points scored at Imola. And if he wants to take the championship, it's just become a whole lot more difficult. And that does mean everybody else is going to move up a position, but he's going to lose so many points with O'Hack quite comfortably winning this one. It's going to be advantage to the number 13 car going into Misano.
It's going to be big advantage to the number 13 car, who, again, I think could have mathematically won it going into tonight, but was never realistically going to happen. I don't get why he's quit this race. Yes, he was going to struggle in terms of points, but who's to say O'Hack isn't going to have an issue next week? Who's to say he's not going to get involved in an incident and you might be able to win? The number 29 car just a bit impatient coming out of the pits, knew it was going to be close with Samba and Christensen, ended up dropping behind Christensen, 2 eagle on the limiter, 30-second stop-go penalty. He's decided it is job done, and we are down to just 12 runners. And Jess said in the chat, you never know what, if something happens to someone else, Liam could get himself back into the top 12. All of a sudden, he might be 9 laps down off the lead of this race, but he is in that 12th place now, and Marius and Schultz are looking a bit more confident in their battle for second place. His gap just keeps hovering between half a second to a second, 1 lap. Schultz is faster, closes the gap. He just loses a tiny bit of performance in the dirty air, and Marius stretches out. And while all this is happening, O'Hack is just building this lead. It's now 12 seconds from him. Just needs to keep it tidy and bring it home, and he will be claiming a win and putting himself in a fantastic position to win this championship. Further down the order, we've got another battle that's been brewing for quite a while. Daniel Wing versus Taylor Brady.
Yeah, that has been going on for a while. Daniel Wing has been trying to run away from Taylor Brady a little bit at the moment, but Brady's bringing him in, a 10th here, a 10th there. But at the moment, looking, in fact, looking at it, just looking at the pace, Daniel Wings a little bit quicker at this phase of the race in terms of best lap time. Last lap time, Brady was 2/10 faster, but Daniel Wings pulling that time back. So it's pretty even between these two at the moment. So this could go all the way down to the wire, as Julian Schultz and Nikolai Marius could be, as they're heading into Rivazza. Schultz is pushing Marius through there, and we'll have to see what happens as we head out onto the main straight. But just whilst that unfolds, yeah, that point from Jess, you were going to say, I was going to pick up on that actually. With it's the two mentalities of racing, isn't it? It's the go out and finish the race no matter what, because everybody else could fall off the road and I could still come home with points, versus I've cocked that up, I've ruined my race, there's no point in continuing. And that is, it makes all the difference. And it can be the difference between winning championships and not winning championships, as could be the case as time goes on. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But Schultz still right on the back of Marius for the time being. He looked like he was maybe eyeing up a move down into Tamburello, but not able to get that done. But he is right on the rear wing of Marius going through Tosa. I don't think you could have fit a piece of paper between those two Lamborghinis on the apex of the corner there. He is really signalling his intent as we head up the hill towards Piratella. No move's going to be on here, nor through Acqua Minerale, but he may be able to force a mistake out of his rival. That will be what he's thinking as we go into the downhill portion of the track, braking as we turn right. And he did force a mistake out of Marius. There we go. Having to cut across the inside of Acqua Minerale, that will cost him momentum. Can Schultz do anything into the Variante Alta? He's looking up the inside, but Marius just about managed to hold the momentum in spite of the mistake. And he's forced Schultz to go a little bit deep into Variante Alta there, and everything stays as it is.
Yeah, everything stays as it is. The previous lap was the closest we've seen Schultz to getting a move done around the outside of Tamburello. I don't think we've seen anyone pull that off, apart from when Brady managed a superb switchback earlier on in the race. Schultz has generally been later on the brakes and had a bit more confidence going into the Variante Alta. I think that time maybe just a bit too much confidence, lost some time, and if these two carry on battling, you can just see the blue car in the background. Nathan Samba just reeling them in a tiny bit every single lap. It was a 45.0 and a 45.7 from Marius and Schultz respectively, and a 44.4 from Nathan Samba on the previous lap. Only David O'Hack setting quicker times than that at the moment, so do not write out the number 97 just yet. Got about 8 to 9 laps to go in this race. It is going to be a big ask, but you never know if these two just start fighting that tiny bit harder. We might see Samba really get himself involved more. It looks like Wing is just doing enough at the moment to keep Brady at bay. That gap staying at about 1 second. Melez, he's dropped a bit further back. He's in 10th. Coltai, didn't really speak about him, but it seems in that pit stop period, Mark Coltai has actually been able to gain a bit of a gap and has now got himself into a very solid 7th position.
Yeah, he has indeed. He's got some nice clean air in front of him. He doesn't really have to worry about Wing behind, especially if Wing starts scrapping with Brady, should that battle arise. So he's looking pretty comfortable at the moment. Here's Mark Coltai. We saw him having to get a little bit scrappy earlier on, and we saw him getting very scrappy last week as well, but having a bit more of a comfortable time of it at the moment behind the wheel of the 21, and probably enjoying that after having his fair share of the battles. We'll be happy to take home a solid amount of points. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the gaps the Schultz has. He's dropped to about 1.3 behind Marius after that little bit of a moment we saw between the two of them on the lap prior, and perhaps just biding his time a little bit for now and cooling off after that little battle where they almost came together heading through Acqua Minerale. But Gabler looks like he's improving on pace, but sadly he's not really got anyone around him at the moment. He's just vibing out there on his own at the minute, is Gabler, as he has been for a good portion of this race, I think. We've not really spoken much about him down in 11th place. And yeah, just enjoying himself more than anything, it would seem, behind the wheel of that car, getting some good practice in, as he's got Liam New, who's back out on circuit just down the road ahead of him, but eyes are glued to Schultz and Marius at the moment. Marius not particularly quick this lap compared to what he has been, but Schultz is sort of matching his best time, so it's not really taking as good advantage of it as he perhaps should have done, but he is reeling him in nonetheless. A second now. He's pulled out about half a second in this lap. Can he pull off any more? Are we going to see any more moves coming soon from Julian Schultz?
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see whether he has just let the tyres go a bit cooler and just try to get himself back up. And Gambler, he's doing a very respectable job. He's doing pretty much exactly what he did last week. It's just nice and solid. He knows he's not got the pace of some of these quicker drivers, but he's done 2 personal best fastest laps in a row. I mean, last lap around, he was only 2 tenths slower than Klaus Christensen, who's in 5th place at the moment, and looks like he is again having a lonely run towards his finishing position. But he's doing a good job, his Gambler. He's kept it clean. Maybe he can have a bit of fun with himself and Liam New. Hopefully, there won't be any contact, because that's the last thing either of them would want now, is to put themselves into a retirement situation. Especially Liam, like Floppy Fox has said, shout out for coming back out of the pits when you're so far down, to just get that extra bit of learning, an extra bit of feel into the car, as again Marius has just stretched the gap out. It is now 1.2 seconds. They're all setting very similar times at the front. O'Hack to Schultz on the last lap, all their times were within a quarter of a second, Samba included as well. They're doing a fantastic job. It's just O'Hack has been able to do it lap after lap after lap and has never had to defend from anyone in this race. There was all that action going on lap 1. He got a 1 second gap. From then, he's never really looked like being challenged.
No, he hasn't. Absolutely right. He's been very, very comfortable out front, and I think what we're seeing at the moment is very similar to what we saw last week out in Monza. Is after the pit stops, there's gaps with people trying different strategies have extended, and we found up with cars sort of running in a little bit of free air, which just allowing them to manage their race with the on-track battles sort of definitely boiling towards pace. And speaking of on-track battles boiling towards pace, Taylor Brady is starting to reel in Daniel Wing down in the P8, P9 battle at the moment. He dropped that gap to just below a second for a brief moment there. It's to 1.3 now, but it's getting very close between these two again. The gap I was thinking that battle was mostly going to be over, and Brady had settled in for a 9th position finish as the gap hit 2.5 seconds last lap, but obviously not satisfied is Taylor Brady at the moment. He's starting to close in once again on the 243 car, so we could see this battle brewing up very, very soon indeed, as Taylor Brady readies another attack. We've seen these two going at it for quite some time in this race as well, and managing to keep it clean between the two of them with some good racing going on. So that looks like it's going to continue as we start to wind down. We've got less than 10 minutes to go though, so Brady does need to pick it up if he wants to get this moved on.
Yeah, Brady did set a personal best on the previous lap of a 1:44.490. I think we are going to see another personal best here, 1:44.3. He has closed that gap down by nearly a second on the last lap. The young Irishman really starting to put the hammer down in these final laps, and we saw through Aqua Minerale on the previous one for 2:43, Daniel Wing just making a tiny mistake. Is this going to be an opportunity for Taylor Brady? Is he going to have one chance? And you feel with how little time there is to go in this race, it really is going to have to be one opportunity. He's going to have to try and take it. We've seen some smart moves from him earlier on round the outside of Tamburello almost being a particular highlight. Can he get the move done on Daniel Wing? I'm not sure who pitted earliest out of these. I'm not sure who is going to have the time advantage at the moment. I don't think it is going to make too much of a difference, but it certainly looks, at this moment in time, over the last couple of laps, Brady looks like he's able to just keep it closer to the apex, and on a few occasions it looks like Wing, whether he's just pushing a bit too hard, looks like he is washing out wide from a few of the curves, and again, not the cleanest one through Aqua Minerale. This could be a chance for Taylor Brady, who went for a dive earlier on into the Variante Outer. Didn't work out. He'll be much better off here. Just waiting, just keeping it nice and tidy over the curves, and in that case, if a 2-4-3 getting a better run. If he gets close through Ravazza, he might just have an opportunity to get that move done into Tamburello, and then see if he can pull away as he's about to finish lap number 29 for him. O'Hack has already finished lap number 29 and now has a fairly comfortable lead in this race over Marius and Schultz. Here comes Taylor Brady. I don't think he is close enough on this occasion.
No, it doesn't look like he is, but here's an interesting fact. I'm just checking through on the data that I've got, And the way it's driving, you'd think Daniel Wing made the earlier pit stops than Taylor Brady, but no, Taylor Brady actually pit on, well, he pit 27 minutes into the race. Daniel Wing pit 34 minutes into the race, so 7 laps longer.
So
Daniel Wing's gone way wide. Yeah, Daniel Wing's gone well off the road coming through the last part of Tamburello, and that hands the position to Taylor Brady. So as much as Daniel Wing's tyres are newer than Taylor Brady's, it does not help them if you aren't on the tarmac, and that mistake, that's costly for Daniel Wing, as he made it very easy for Taylor Brady to take that position, and the invert around, and Taylor Brady is up to 8th place. Don't forget, earlier on, he was right at the back after whatever happened at the first lap. We saw him pulling off to the inside of the Variante Alta on lap 1 for whatever reason, and everybody flew past. But now he's starting his charge through the grid, and can he catch Coltai by the end of the race? He's 5 seconds back with 6 minutes to go. I don't think he's quite got that much pace in him, but it'd be interesting to see how close he can get. And look at the gap already forming. Taylor Brady is charging at the moment, 2 seconds after that mistake from Daniel Wing. So, and another mistake from Daniel Wing as well, coming off of the Variante Alta. That is, I feel like that's going to be that fight over and done with for now. There's 2 mistakes from Daniel Wing. Perhaps the fatigue of an hour race starting to settle in a little bit, and he's going to have to settle for 9th place now, it would seem.
Yeah, and again, he's really struggling with the understeer on that car. Through nearly every single corner, he just seems to be going a bit deep. Whether he's getting greedy on the brakes, whether the car is just not wanting to turn in. But yeah, 147 with all the mistakes on that lap. I think he's going to be safe from Johannes Meles behind him. He has got a 5.5 second gap. Such a shame for him. Just a slight mistake, just a bit too greedy maybe on the throttle, coming through the exit of Tamburello, coming through this turn number 3. And he drops back and has just allowed Taylor Brady to try and escape off into the distance. And that is kind of what Marius is doing in 2nd place. Since Schultz had that little moment into Variante Alta, it's certainly affected the number 96 car. And Nicolai Marius has now got that gap up to 1.7 seconds with 5 minutes remaining. So they are going to, just going to try and work this out. I think they are going to get 3 more laps done after this one, and then we'll be on the end of that race. And it is David O'Hack with a 15-second lead at the moment after 30 laps with 5 minutes remaining. And you can just see from the gaps at the moment, Brady has got so much more pace than Wing. He was a second faster than Coltai on the previous lap, so I think he is just going to run out of time. But you never know. One slight mistake from the Hungarian, Taylor Brady is going to be right back into a battle for 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a comeback and a half to make his way all the way up to 7th come the end of the race, but I think it is going to be quite the ask for him to slot that number 12 car up any more positions, as you say. As much as he is a second a lap quicker, there isn't that much time left in the race for him to get anything done at the moment, it is unfortunate. He'll be praying that the stopwatch just has a little moment and maybe adds an additional lap to the race, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately for him. Nonetheless, where he is now, 8th position from where he was at the end of lap 1, is a tremendous feat to accomplish indeed. Just trying to keep my eyes on the gap between Schultz and Marius. It's not really moving at the moment. Schultz has pulled it back under 2 seconds, but I think time is running out for him to manage to get through on Marius as well as the race starts to draw to a close. Looking through the best laps we're seeing as well, we've got Coltai is quicker than Popa at the moment, but again, not enough time left for him to get anything done there. In fact, I think Popa had quite a bad lap on the previous lap. He was gaining on Christensen, but he's lost time there again now. And everybody, I think, is just settling in for the end of the race now. 3.5 minutes to go. So that's 1 and a bit laps. So where is O'Hack on track at the moment? He's coming through the final corner and out onto the main straight. So what is, I believe, going to be the second to last lap. He should get the white flag on the next lap, and then we'll take the checkered flag if my time is right in my head. And it has been a dominant race. I don't want to call that too early. A dominant race for David O'Hack so far. He's led from lights to flag with at least as far as we can tell, not really any mistakes, where we've seen a pretty incident-filled race for a few drivers with a lot of off-tracks coming through. Hack's really managed to keep it clean, and that shows in just how much of a lead he's got.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, hopefully we'll be talking to the top 3 later on, but OHAC has been simply sublime in this race and must now be feeling very good going into the final race next week at Mazzano, which will decide the championship, and OHAC is going to have a very sizable lead. I'm going to try and do some quick maths in my head. I think it will be Samba who will be in 2nd place in the championship, but OHAC is on 37 points as things stand. I think Samba is going to be on 26, so that is an 11-point lead. Basically means if OHAC finishes in the top 5 next week, he will claim the inaugural ACC PC Trophy here, Season 4, in the Super Trofeo Trophy. And talking of Samba, he has picked up the pace over the last few laps. He's got that gap onto the back of Schultz within 2 seconds. I think another one who might just be slightly frustrated that he is going to run out of laps. That battling with DeMarchi earlier really did cost him plenty of time. Otherwise, you've got to feel he'd have been involved with his Marius Schultz scrap as well. Yeah,
absolutely. This is one of those races where you're just thinking, oh no, 5 more minutes, because everybody's starting to pull each other back in now. We've got racing on the brink of happening, but as the engineer says in the background, the leader is on the final lap. He's taken the white flag, so time is running out. They won't do any more after this one, and as David O'Hack makes his way around the first corner for the final time, everybody's just going to run out of time before they can get anything done. It's so sad because there's so many good battles that are brewing on track, but there's just not enough minutes left in the hour.
No, like we said, we are just going to run just that tiny bit out of time. OHAC is catching up to a bit of traffic ahead of him. That is the number 26 car of Gabler. Whether Gabler will slow down and just let him through to try and avoid completing that one extra lap, we will wait and see. It has been a brilliant performance from the Slovenian. Like you said, from the start of the race, he's done a superb job. Marius has really started, though, to light up the timing sheets towards the end of this race. Fastest lap, 1:43.655 from Marius. Another one who got close in qualifying to OHAC, couldn't quite make it work. Just missed out on pole position. And it's a similar story to last week. Being on pole was all important. You avoided all the chaos behind you. In the opening stages of the race, it was DeMarchi who did that last week. It was OHAC who's done it this week, and we thought the Italian had a dominant victory last time around. OHAC has really shown the rest of the pack what he can do with consistency that it looks like no one is going to be able to match this season, and it looks like it is going to be consistency that gives the Slovenian the championship next week at Misano. But rounding Ravazza for the 34th and final time, the white flag is out, and it'll be the checkered flag on this occasion for David OHAC. He pulls towards the pit wall. He weaves towards the winning post. It is David OHAC who takes the victory here in round number 2 in the Super Trofeo Cup. It is going to be Nikolai Marius who comes home in a 2nd place. Himself and Schultz getting their first podiums of the season. Samba couldn't quite catch up at the end. He finishes in 4th. But OHAC, once again, is the only driver now to have had 2 podiums in a row. A 2nd last time, and he's gone one better here.
Yeah, dominant victory, and yeah, really setting himself up for the championship here in this Italian Super Trofeo Cup. As yeah, you can see just how dominant that victory was from the timing screen there. 14.9 seconds back to Marius. That's a huge gap, given some of the gaps we saw further down with cars finishing within 2-3 seconds of each other. That's very impressive from OHAC, and it's gonna take some doing to try and knock him off the top next week in Mazzano for anybody that does want to try and rival that championship. But of course, don't rule out people like DeMarchi, who didn't have a very good race here, and indeed retiring after that penalty popped up from the pit stops. But we know he's got the pace. He could still be the thorn in OHAC's side come next week. We'll have to wait and see when it comes to that one. But a very impressive drive from basically everybody that finished the race. Though I can't think of any other car than OHAC that wasn't involved in a fight at some point during this race, as that's how close the field was.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, got heading towards the line now. Gabler's going to come home in what I believe we haven't a driver leave the lobby, so it was 11th place in the end there for Gabler. Like we said, it was just a simply sublime race from all of the drivers. Gabler doing a fantastic job. He comes home in 11th, as we are going to, I think, quickly just get what the timings were from that race. And you can see them there. OHAC taking the victory. Marius in second place, Schultz in third, Samba fourth, Christensen, Pope, Coltai, Brady, Wing, Mellors, Gabler knew the cars got to the finish, DeMarchi backed out after his penalty, Gonzaga damage earlier on, and Dane, I think, with some unfortunate disqualification. That is sometimes the way the games work. He clearly had some issue. I mean, no such issues for Ho Hack. 15-second win in a 34-lap race. That is pretty dominant.
It absolutely is. It just highlights the pace he's had this time around, and yeah, it's, as I say, it's going to take some beating for anybody to try and rival O'Hack next week. But it's a different track, different situation, and yeah, even as it's been mentioned in the chat as well, everybody can make mistakes. O'Hack can have a wobble sometimes. Any good driver can have a wobble sometimes. All it takes is one little mistake, as we saw from DeMarchi earlier on, and you can completely throw your race out of the window. So it's not all over just because he's got the championship lead going into the final round. We could still see some surprise victories. There's so many drivers up the sharp end of the grid with the pace, with the likes of, you know, you've got Sambi, you've got DeMarchi, you've got, you know, all the other guys we've seen battling out at the front today as well. Anything can happen next time out when we get to Mazzano.
Yeah, you never know. We are going to try and get our top 3 drivers in for interviews. But before that, we have got to pick our driver of the day and pick a question we'd like to ask him. So, going to go to yourself for this one first, Paul. Who's your driver of the day, and what would you like to ask them?
Well, given what we saw through the field and how much I probably picked up on it, you may have an inkling of to who my driver of the day is going to be, for no other reason than the sheer amount of overtakes he wound up doing through the race, and the comeback we saw from lap 1 in Taylor Brady. We saw him. First part of the question is what actually happened on lap 1, because of course we didn't quite see it. We just saw him pulled off to the inside of the Variante Alta. But then, how high did he think he would be able to get? Is his finishing position of, I believe it was 7th in the end, the highest he thought he was going to be able to get, or was he aiming higher, or was he really just vibing once he, you know, whatever happened at the start, and he was just driving around having a bit of fun? It'd be interesting to hear his side of what exactly was going on in that race, because he did pull off some pretty stunning overtakes, as it has to be said, around a track that's notoriously quite difficult to do that.
Yeah, definitely. He did manage to pull off some fantastic overtakes. I like to try to go for someone different. I think given how dominant he was, I am going to have to go for David O'Hack, and I'm going to have to come up with a question different to what I'm going to ask him. But the question I'm going to ask him for the driver of the day interviews was just how relieved you were at the end of the first lap of the race, when you saw all the other cars behind you having a big battle, and you'd gained a 1.5 second lead. I imagine you were pretty happy to see that. And we have got drivers coming in now for interviews, so we are going to start off with a race winner, David O'Hack. Fantastic job from yourself. 15-second win at the end. Pretty much a perfect race.
Yeah, guys, I think I find my pace really fast after 1 or 2 laps. I don't do any big mistakes, and I think Marius had not the best pit stop, and yeah, I am very happy of my pace on today's race. Yeah.
Did you expect the race to be that comfortable, or were you expecting a bit more of a battle similar to what you had last week with DeMarchi?
Of course, I expect to have a really big battle with DeMarchi. I don't know what happened, and I train a lot, as I say. DeMarchi had overtaken the Marius, I think, in first corner, and I don't know what happened then, but yeah, like I say, I'm very happy. I didn't expect a race like that.
And heading into next week, into Mazzano, you've got the lead in the championship, I think, and I can't confirm this, I think you only need a top 5 to secure the title. Are you going to change your approach heading into Mazzano, or are you just going to carry on what you're doing now, which clearly is working?
Yes, yeah, I'm very happy about it, and I need to stay focused and don't do any stupid mistakes, and hopefully I win the championship.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Well, congratulations, David. We'll let you head off for now. Thanks for joining us, and we're going to bring in the man who finished in second place, Nikolai Marius. And Paul, why don't you take us through our interview with tonight's runner-up?
Yeah.
Hello.
So Hello and welcome. Yeah, a great race from you, Nikolai. We saw you involved in a battle pretty much all the way through the race. Just sort of let us know your thoughts on that one. We saw you battling with Schultz almost to the flag. He dropped off towards the end, but you must have been enjoying it out there, having such a lengthy battle.
Yeah, it was a hard race, and in the first lap I saw in my side, left and right, Tamba, I think, and the another, but and the rest were hard race. For me, yeah, it was not so good for me. It was a bit too little more stress for me.
Yeah, it's as stressful as it was a great watch for us, and you managed to keep it together and hold on for the second place towards the end as well, with some great defensive driving and keeping it going through the race. Just looking through my notes because my memory is terrible, but yeah, just anything you want to add at the moment, Luke, while I'm just going through my notes.
You had supreme pace in that race. Tell us about the final stint, because Julian was putting you under a lot of pressure, but it seemed he had one attempt on into Tamburello one lap, and after that you seemed to be able to cope comfortably.
Yeah, the first time I saw in my mirror back, and I see, and I say in my brain, yeah, that is not my pace, and I must to concentrate, to focus for the race, for the next laps remaining as well. It was 10 minutes, and I tried to make another fastest lap, and yeah, I did it. And now done. The second place, also the three position, it was circa 1 second in my back, and yeah.
Yeah, certainly, you did a great job. Paul, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna. I wanted to ask, sort of, from a driver's standpoint, when you're locked into a battle that long with another driver, as you were through this one, you've already mentioned just sort of how difficult and how stressful the race can be. But is there anything you do in your head to sort of keep focused on what's going on? Do you have any little rituals or anything like that that sort of helps you keep focused on what's going on and not make any sort of silly mistakes while you're trying to focus on in front and behind at the same time?
Yeah, totally, yeah, yes. So for me, I try to make a clean race, because the last race is not it was not very good for me, and I know it's not my pace. And today I try to start in pole, but I didn't, and in the race I try to make a fastest lap. For today I make what I can do it more. So I'm sorry, but my English is not so perfect, not good.
No, it's perfectly fine, and your English is doing very well to sort of for us to understand how you went through the race, and a great race it was. Congratulations again on finishing where you did in that one, and thanks for joining us for an interview.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe, Luke, we've got one more interviewee waiting to hop in.
I hope.
Yeah, we have got one more. We've got a third place finisher. So yeah, thanks to Nikolai for joining us for that interview. We have got Julian Schultz. He came so close to getting second place there, but still, I imagine third place a good result for yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
So, first of all, GG to the podium and all the other drivers. I think it's okay. I mean, I fought for P2, but at the end the pace wasn't there because I pitted early and yeah, I didn't have the balls, let's say it like this, to commit and dive in. So then my tires just went broke and he had the better tires. So I guess it's a okay finish. I mean, I'm very happy with it. I could have done better in quali, to be honest, but yeah, it was an awesome race. It was a clear fight with Marius, so GG for that. It was so much fun. And yeah, let's see what brings Misano.
Yeah, definitely looked fun from our point of view. You said you'd pitted earlier on. Was that a deliberate tactic to try to get the undercut and use the fresher tyres?
Because, you know, in the Super Trofeo you need like 2 or 3 laps to get the tires warm. And I knew I was like 5 minutes early for halftime, so I just committed because I knew the tires on stint 1 were totally done, because the first tires are always like dead because you can't warm it up properly, you are in a fight at the first rounds. So I knew they will hold longer on the second stint, and then I just put in and went for it. So obviously it wasn't a bad idea because I went really close to Marius and it helped a lot. But like I said, when the critical laps were, when I had to overtake him, I didn't commit because I didn't want to dive him, and I really had respect, let's say it like this, for the slipstream, because it tows you like hell, and then under braking it just keeps towing, you know. So I went really close to him, to his back, like a few corners, and then I went like, okay. So I saw he was struggling, and I kind of hoped for a little mistake of his side, but it didn't happen. So at the end, I had to watch my back because I don't know who it was actually, Sampa, who went really close at the end. So yeah, it was planned because yeah, I just wanted to have the hot tires when he was pitting, and then pass him and then like make my car wider than it is, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, certainly. You had a good clean race last time around. You had a good clean race here and managed to get a podium. Do you think you could get another podium and possibly a win at Misano?
I hope so. I mean, these 3 tracks are actually pretty good tracks or tracks I know because I did a lot of Endo and league racing there. So, but I don't know actually how the car will behave in Misano because it's less aero and stuff like that. And a lot of corners where you have like slow velocity and yeah, but I hope so actually, so at least get a top 5 finish. I mean, would be nice, but I'm here for fun.
Yeah, certainly. We'll wait and see what you do next week. Congratulations on your podium today.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, thanks to Julian for joining us, as well as Nikolai and David. That is pretty much it from this stream and from this race. It was a great race, Paul. There was plenty of action throughout the field. In fact, the only place that we didn't really see any battles happening was out in front. David O'Hack just supreme throughout and now in a fantastic position to take the championship in a week's time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great race from a spectator point of view, and a great race if you were sitting in the driving seat of David O'Hack's car. And the real question now, as we head towards the final round of this short 3-race season, is who can topple O'Hack, if anyone? He's not going to be infallible. It's who can find that weakness as we head to Misano. He may not be as strong around there as he has been around Imola, for example. We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be an exciting season closer with Demarchi looking to try and come back from the mistake made today as well, to try and bring himself back into this championship fight, as well as we've seen. Yes, there's at least 3 or 4 other drivers that have the pace to realistically try and get up there. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out next week. And yeah, is it next Thursday yet?
Yeah, definitely can't wait. Misano, not a circuit I've had much experience with. I'm sure it's slightly different for some of these drivers. And I think tonight's proved the field's pretty close. If Hohak has some sort of issue, he might not be guaranteed that top 5 finish that he needs.
No, for sure. In terms of the issues, you just have to look at what happened earlier on. We saw Liam New have that big off towards the start of the race. He was out of it for a good 15-20 minutes where he was getting the car repaired, came back out and wound up finishing ahead of Demarchi because Demarchi took his penalty and decided he didn't want any more of that and left the session. So anything can happen. One little mistake and maybe a little bit, things getting a little bit heated in the rig. If you make a mistake and you get angry at yourself and stuff like what happened to Demarchi could happen to Ohak perhaps in the next race. Of course, we don't want to see the season end like that by any means, but it's not out of the question, and things can get heated, of course, with the competitive nature of each one of these drivers, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we certainly will have to wait and see. But that's pretty much it then for the stream. Thanks so much to Paul for joining me in the commentary box. Thanks to the 3 drivers for joining us for the interviews, David, Nikolai and Julian. And thanks, of course, to our sponsors, who you can see on the bottom of the screen there. Next Level Racing, ERT, Vespertine, SimGrid and Pure Sim Gear. Of course, without them, we wouldn't be able to provide these streams for you. There'll be some more One Hub action again, ACC on Tuesday. That will be on the PlayStation platform. It is currently Commenter List leading the championship again, and the man seems almost unstoppable, if we're being honest, on the PlayStation platform on the moment. He's doing such a fantastic job. Next week, it's a bit of an interesting one. There's a sprint race also at the Nürburgring, so that could be crazy. Make sure to check that one out on Tuesday. Myself and Paul will be back with the championship finale at Mazzano. Can David O'Hack take the championship? Will Demarchi or Samba be able to stop him? But for now, for both of us, thanks for watching and goodbye.